So I made my first feature film, Remember Us, with no studio, barely any budget, and just pure determination. And somehow it ended up on Amazon Prime. And today in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how I did it, the mistakes, the lessons I learned, and what it really takes to make your first feature film.
Don't you get scared of growing old?
Why would I? It's a privilege denied to many.
No idea. As a single parent, no idea.
But you choose them over me. Do I not matter to you?
What more could you possibly want?
Why am I doing this, Steve?
You don't do it to make other people happy. You do it for yourself.
I've had my life. Yours matters. You've got to fight while you're young.
My goal is to be better than who I used to be.
These things happen and life takes hold of you.
Hello everyone, if you're new here, my name is Caitlin Boxall, and yeah, I'm going to be talking about my first feature film that I made. Remember Us was my first official feature film, which I did after my short film Behind Closed Doors, which I do talk a lot about in my other previous YouTube videos, which I will link across here for you. If you want to check that out, go ahead. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the mistakes, the wins, and how you can do it as well. It's not easy by far being a filmmaker, let me tell you that now. Of course, money comes into it, being able to fund a film, knowing your locations, writing a script, the editing, making industry connections. Oh gosh, so much comes into it. You know, when I did very well with my short film Behind Closed Doors, I was like, oh, okay, what else can I do? And so Remember Us came along, and my mum helped me with a lot of the ideas of the script, basically wrote it together. And the inspiration behind the storyline of Remember Us is that I wanted to raise awareness to a different issue aside from domestic abuse that I'd already done in my other film. And I was really intrigued by dementia because I'd never really seen any films just discussing dementia within Britain. So I thought, oh, I really want to do a storyline on that, but I also wanted to connect it to prejudice, discrimination, you know, racial justice and all that stuff, all the stuff that's going on in modern day society. A lot of the groundwork in terms of the research behind the script came from my mum because she was a manager of an elderly people's home, so she had a lot of experience with dementia and caring for elderly. So she gave me a lot of insight on how I could build the character of Mr. Miller. And one of the main scenes where the two main characters, Lucas and Mr. Miller, bond is the scene I like to call the Teacup scene. And that came directly from my mum's insight to something that she experienced where she had to go in and check on an elderly woman. And because of this lady's dementia, she kept saying to my mum that she had to make tea because she had people coming round. So my mum had to set out all these like cups of tea onto a main table for her, thinking that she did actually have people coming round. And after sitting down and talking to her, she asked the lady, well, when are these people coming? And the lady goes, what people? Obviously my mum realised, oh, this is obviously part of her dementia. She obviously hasn't got people coming round. And so I thought that was a great thing to use for the writing of the Teacup scene. And actually it turns out I still have the main copy of the Remember Us script here. I found it a couple of days ago because I knew I was going to be doing this video, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I've still got the copy of the script, and voila, I still have it. I don't know why there's a picture of us all on set in the slip of the script, but yeah, that was us walking across the road in Teacup to film one of the scenes. It is 96 pages. Even though it's 96 pages, we did, well, I say we, it was more my decision, I think, on set. I actually ended up cutting a lot of pages of this out once we was on set actually adapting it for the screen, because some of the dialogue in the script, even though it seemed like a great idea on paper, not everything works when you're on a set reenacting it. Sometimes something doesn't feel right about that scene the way it felt so right on paper, and you don't necessarily always know what it is. It doesn't feel right about it, but you just know, like, no, this isn't going to work. This is without a doubt the longest script I've ever written because it was my first feature film, so it had to be, you know, at least 80 pages or more. That was about 6 or 7 months of filming. If you want to become a filmmaker and you're, you know, really serious about your feature film, short films, whatever it is you're working on, I think it's so imperative to keep a hold of the original copy of your script. You can look back on it and you can sort of compare your work to then to now, and it's just, it's very sort of, what's the word? It's memories. I still have the script to Behind Closed Doors somewhere. Don't know where, it's hidden somewhere. It's like keeping an old drawing that you made when you was a kid. I have all that stuff as well. It's filling up a whole cupboard. And of course, these days in the industry, I suppose most people read their scripts off their phone or off their iPad, which a lot of the actors that I've worked with, they work like that, and that's great. But I personally, and especially being the film director of a project, I love to print out a physical papered copy, because then when I'm on set, I can literally just flick through it physically. And if I want to change like a scene that doesn't exactly feel right, I can just literally get my pen and I can just scribble my notes down on it, and I can literally be a bit more clear clear about my directions to the actors and that. You can see that I actually cut out quite a few bits of dialogue. A lot of scenes were just a bit too lengthy on set. They just didn't get to the point, and that's one of the major worries as a filmmaker. The last thing you want to do is for your film to drag and just bore viewers. You want to get to the point. You don't want to get to the point too quick and like rush it, because there's no build up. You want to have your build up but without taking too long, because then you get viewers that are like it's just good to look back on. And also it's very handy on set, especially as the film director role or the script writer, either which. It's very easy for you to be on set and just scribble your notes down, and then you can literally show your actors, because you might struggle to be expressive with what you're trying to say to them, so you can literally just open your script and literally cross out things that you don't necessarily feel comfortable with anymore. You could be like, don't worry about that line, just go from that line to that line, and then they'll know. You'll be clear about what you're doing. Yeah, it's really helped me out. That's what I do. I love paper form. One of the main things that actors really love to understand your project, to know whether they want to get involved or not, is to do a production pack. It is so helpful. I'd stress to you, if you're a filmmaker, do a production pack, because that is the groundwork, and a production pack usually comes way before you start a script. Your production pack is basically the groundwork of your research, you know, things you've looked into, drafting out very catchy synopsis of what your film is about. That is actually the golden book for your actors. That is what they want to see to understand your film. They don't just want back and forth messages of going, you know, my film's about this, my film's about that. I mean, of course you can give all the information in the world to your crew members, your actors and that, but to save a lot of time and a lot of repetitive conversations, a production pack is brilliant, because it's all there in a pack, and your production pack can be as long as you want. You can even make it into a slideshow production pack. It just basically gives my actors a lot of insight to how much passion and research and thought has gone into the film, and then of course you get your script, your paper screenplay that accompanies that. So it usually goes hand in hand. Obviously people don't have to produce a production pack, but for me it's always what I've done, and it just helps to show people that so much thought and creativity has gone into your production. So I highly recommend that. And this was like the main page of the production pack, where it basically just gave an idea of how I envisioned the logo of the Remember Us title. When I was casting for my feature film Remember Us, I knew exactly who I wanted to play the character Steve, which is the community service supervisor of Lucas, who is basically acting up, and he gets put on community service for some petty shoplifting. I knew straight away I wanted the community supervisor Steve to be played by Frank Harper. I had, a very long list of people that had applied for the role, but in my head, when I wrote the scene of that particular character, I envisioned Frank Harper. Very cool story here. Frank Harper, who is from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Bended Like Bacon. When my mum was preggy with me, Frank Harper knew my mum. Yes, that's right, children. Back in, I think I've got this right, 1998, 1999, 2000, that sort of span. His parents run the pub, which was called the Clifton Arms in Croydon. That was the pub that my dad used to always drink in, so him and Frank knew each other, and you know, my mum ended up with my dad, and so Frank knew them both way before I was born. I was just an egg at the time. And when I met Frank and gave him the script and, you know, showed him what I wanted to do with the film, he was like, oh, I knew your mum. But yeah, on a serious note, he was amazing to work with, and he portrayed the character Steve so well. I was just honoured that he wanted to be a part of it. I was really honoured. And actually, going off course here a little bit from the subject, but a fun story. After the filming of Remember Us had been completed, me and my mum had to move house. Frank Harper drove us from London to Hastings on our home move.
Hi everyone, we are on our way to Hastings. There's Caitlin, and there is the back of
Frank's head.
Frank Harper's head.
What was your favourite scene in Remember Us?
Any scene that didn't have the van in it.
Oh.
No.
Maybe the graffiti scene then.
No, the graffiti scene was actually quite funny, wasn't it?
And yeah, that was a memorable journey, I have to say. But yes, of course, and understandably, one of the main worries about making a film is money, finance. How do you finance a film? How can you afford it? I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not going to lie, I barely had any budget. I approached it with ambition because I really wanted to do it. It was something I was really passionate about. But of course, the money for Remember Us had to come from somewhere. Lucky enough, I had a lot of lovely connections, which was mostly influenced by my mum. But Remember Us mostly relied on crowdfunding of people that had donated to the making of the film because they felt passionate about the dementia subject. But the other helpful factor is that my mum had a lot of her own connections. I used my nan's house for the main filming location as Mr. Miller's home. Yes, I know I used my own nan's house. Whew, was that an experience? I don't think she was too pleased with me. Nevertheless, it got done. And my other mum's connection to one of the locations that we used was a corner shop that was just down the road from us, around the corner of where we lived at the time. Manisha, if she's watching this, we used Manisha's corner shop in Welling in Bexley. A lot of my, really helpful, good experience with creating it and being able to afford to create a film has come from having the right connections, because, it's that same old saying that we say, it's not always what you know, it's who you know. And yeah, it's very, very true. But yeah, it did have some crowdfunding, and I didn't pay actors whilst the film was going on. I just had an agreement with them where their travel expenses and food would be covered and provided. So, that's always the main thing. If you're not actively paying anyone throughout the filming and you're just working in a collaborative sense because you're not sure where this independent film is going, then it's really important to just at least try and cover their travel expenses and provide food, because you want to make sure that your actors are being looked after. You don't want people to be, working with you in a team to create something brilliant and they're just drained and exhausted with all this creativity going on. You want to make the people on set feel comfortable, because then they want to work with you again. But getting to the point, the main thing that you're all going to want to know is, how did I get distribution for this independent film? How exactly did I get it on Amazon Prime? To be brutally honest with you guys, I didn't have a distribution deal in place. I didn't know where exactly the film was going to end up. I just delved into it with inner belief, because that's how you've got to approach filmmaking a lot of the time. Because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have confidence in what you're doing, no one else is really going to have confidence in you either. Just putting it out there. The distribution situation started to come about when I was halfway through Film Remember Us. Obviously the film had been put on IMDb, which, if some of you that don't know what IMDb stands for, it stands for Internet Movie Database, and it's basically a platform. All filmmakers know this, but there's a lot of people that want to become a filmmaker, or you're just watching this for pure curiosity. It's basically a Wikipedia source of information for films, and I of course made sure to submit Remember Us for a IMDb listing, and for a number of months whilst we were filming, it was on the Internet Movie Database as being in production or pre-production. And a distribution company got in contact with me by email, and they said, we've noticed that you're starting a feature film and you've listed it on IMDb. Do you have any distribution deal in process for this? It doesn't look like it. Would you be interested in an offer that we've got for you? So of course there was a bit of back and forth communication with that, and I was like, oh yeah, this is brilliant. Obviously your first question when any sort of distribution company or production company contact you is, you want to basically know what their intentions are in terms of where they want to put it. And most people know the very, very top one is of course Netflix. Then you've got Amazon Prime, which I believe is the second. Apple TV, Sky, I think there's more, I'll put them on the screen, but there's loads. If you hear any of their main ones, you know it's going to be, a decent offer, and you know your film is going to somewhat go out there. But the other really great factor to the offer was that not only was it going to be put on Amazon Prime, but it was also going to be put on the Emirates airline service. They have a movie service when you're on the planes, and you can just tap and watch whatever movie you want to watch during your holiday journey. And Remember Us is available on that. So not only is it on Amazon Prime, it's also available on planes when you're going on holiday under the Emirates service. Even though I'm so pleased about that, the communication with them back and forth after the filming, etc., it wasn't always pleasant. It's very important to remember that some distributors, when you're in contact with them, sometimes they can be very much up their own, if you get what I'm saying. Very above their station, should we say, for a more polite term. Obnoxious, that's a good word. Yeah, that's a better word. We'll go for obnoxious. I've just always just dealt with it as professionally as possible and calm as possible. Don't take no shite in the industry, definitely not. At the same time, you don't want to really burn any bridges, because at the end of the day, if you want to get into an industry, specifically this industry, you have to be very aware that you're going to obviously work with people and communicate with people that you don't necessarily like or get along with because of how they talk to you or whatever. You're going to come across those people, it's just natural. The overall process with the distributors was just basically a big long checklist of things that I had to make sure I had, because you don't just give them the 4K movie file of your film, you also have to fill out a checklist of all the little bits of documentation, what I call
Red tape.
you have to clear a lot of red tape. If you're just getting like third party copyrighted music, then you have to reach out and you have to get music licenses for that bit of music that you're using. And that is one of the main things that took a lot of time. It takes hell of a lot of time to get the permission and just clear the red tape for that, because obviously for copyright reasons. But there's many other things that is in this checklist that a distributor gives to you before they can put your film out and approve it to go out into the world. I actually found the distribution process more stressful than the filming. But I'm not saying that's going to be the experience for you aspiring filmmakers out there. It was my experience, yeah, but it might not be your experience. But for me, the distribution process is very long-winded, and it's just because I've always been someone, I hate paperwork. I just want to be on a set. It's not fun. It is not fun. It's all legal stuff, boring, long-winded, and a little bit of a teaser for my next project. Yes, I know I'm getting started on another feature film. I have to be in my creative element. I need to put myself back out there. I need to be with my actors. My next project is called Sheepskin Wolf, and I cannot wait for you guys to see the making of it. But yeah, what I will say is that the script is currently being written and the production pack is being worked on, and I'm having some minor talks with people that I already have visioned in some of the roles. Early days, but getting a start on it and fleshing things out. Definitely not going into production with it until the new year 2026. But yeah, that's all I have to say for today, folks. I really hope I haven't bored you. I hope you found this informative, and I really hope some of you aspiring filmmakers watching this can take something from this. I really do. But yeah, please do like and subscribe if you like this content that I'm putting out. I would really appreciate it, because engagement really helps channels like mine to grow. And of course, if so, I can keep pumping out content like this for you guys. But yeah, bye!